able to operate correctly. Mm-hmm. They were never meant to actually be competent enough to work for Kenya. That's why I say that it all starts with the quality of the appointments. Mm. In our country today, and this is the reality, if you are very good at what you do, you actually stand no chance at all of being given a position. You stand zero chance. The only time that we came close to having competent people who were appointed correctly was immediately after the 2010 constitution, because I served in one of the institutions then.
Yes.
I was the first chair of IPOA. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact, speaking from my personal experience, that the institution was able to function. And they were able to stand against pressure from the executive then, both President Uhuru and even this president who was the deputy president then, were able to stand firm against them. And I know for a fact, like I remember that time we had approximately 64 police officers charged, investigated by the institution. In fact, eventually, from the investigation that we conducted, 17 were convicted, both at the time, by the time I left and even after we left, the cases were still ongoing. And eventually, I know 17, we had an OCS for the first time being charged to death. We had 2 other senior police officers. In fact, 3 police officers were sentenced to death. That was a first. It had never happened. We had an officer, I recall, being sentenced to 40 years imprisonment. We had several being sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. Others, 15 years imprisonment, 10 years imprisonment. 17. Now, and that time, it reached a point whereby a police officer, when they heard of IPOA, they were frightened. In fact, they were very careful not to go around breaking the law, because they knew that there would be consequences, for the bad behavior. Since we left, what has happened? Everything came to a standstill. You don't hear of the institution anymore.
So are we looking, therefore, at appointments that are meant to serve the executive and not one?
Absolutely. That's precisely the point, Dennis, that these appointments are meant to serve the executive, not the people. Now, but you see, the question that I've always asked myself, you've gone to school, you're a professional, even aside of how you've been appointed, because the position I would take is that if I'm appointed to a position, it matters not who has appointed me or the reasons why they've appointed me. But at the end of the day, I went to school. I have my professional reputation to protect. I have a conscience. I'm also a Kenyan, first and foremost, and this is my country. And you see all these people, even in the executive, they are there for a time. In fact, I always say that even those who hold positions of power, it's always a revolving door. Mm-hmm. You are in, you are out. Mm-hmm. Before you know it, you are actually out. Time moves so fast. And just like we said, I was a chairman. I am not one, in IPOA. Yeah. I'm an ordinary guy. I was a vice chair in the judiciary. I am not one now, you see. So you must always be conscious of the fact that time moves so fast. Before you know it in that position, the next minute you're not there. Now, why these people in the executive keep forgetting that when you're in a position of influence, that you should use it for the greater good of the society, knowing that you could also need that assistance at some point in time, I don't understand. And I'll give you an example. Like today, these people have allowed the healthcare to break down completely because it's not functional. We are dealing with a public healthcare that is not functional. Now, I recall a case of this lady called Dr. Sandra in 2023, a very sad case, October 2023. Now, this lady was traveling in a car, I think with her husband and somebody else, and then the car rolled somewhere in Archer's Post, some place called Archer's Post.
Yes.
Now, after rolling in this car, remember, this is a doctor. I can't recall whether she was a pediatrician or something in Isiolo hospital. After rolling, the other occupants in the car were not hurt, miraculously. But she just had a cut. She had a cut. Now, so she had to be rushed to Isiolo Hospital to be treated. Now, unfortunately, in this Isiolo Hospital, there was no oxygen. So she couldn't be operated. Now, so there was now an attempt to look for an ambulance. When an ambulance was found, it didn't have fuel. So by the time now she was being taken out to the other side of Meru, There's a hospital there called, I can't remember the name of the hospital. But the time she was getting there, she had, there was so much bleeding. The lady passed on just because of a cut, something that could have been operated on. If there was oxygen, she could have been taken very quickly to the hospital again if there was fuel in the ambulance. Now, this could have been you or me.
Yes.
It could be any of us. You know, it doesn't matter whether you have good insurance. If you are somewhere far away and the other hospitals do not have the necessary facilitation, they don't have oxygen, the basics, and you are involved in that accident and you can't be able to get help, it will not matter whether you are very high up in the executive, whether you are very low in the cadre. Which is why it's critically important that systems work for all of us, not just a few, because you do not know at what point in time you need that help. Now, I was reading the statistics the other day from the National Cancer Institute of Kenya that we have 47,000 Kenyans every year being diagnosed with cancer. 47,000.
Yes.
Out of which 32,000 are dying. Now, families are being impoverished because the only way they can try to get help is try to put funds together, fundraising. In fact, if you go to WhatsApp groups, every other time you're seeing people doing fundraising so that they can go where? To India to go for treatment. We have a government that is functioned that is telling us about Singapore. They are telling us that that the system is working for people. Yet, you have 47,000 being diagnosed with cancer, 32,000 dying. People are traveling all the way to India when you could make systems work right here at home. Why? Because you have people with a little knowledge, just like we started, and they have no wisdom, there's no vision, there's no desire to work for people. But do you know what? They don't care because things are working for them. Look at the poverty levels in Kenya, if I may also delve deep again to the statistics. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, these are statistics of a government agency, not Macharia Njeru.
Yes.
Saying that 40% of Kenyans are actually living below poverty line as we speak, you know. It is 38.9, so call it 4 out of every 10 Kenyans. When you talk about living below poverty line, it means that people cannot afford the basic, the food.
Yeah, food even,
Rent, the basic. You're not talking about riches, you're talking about the basics.
Food, shelter, clothing.
Yes. Food, shelter, clothing, you can't get. And you see, when you don't have that, it means that the basic dignity of you as a human being has been taken away from you. Now, World Bank last week said that we have about another 2.4 million Kenyans who are being taken to extreme poverty on top of the 40% that you're already talking about. Yet, the executive will keep telling us that the economy is growing, that things are working. Yet the statistics are painting a different picture. When you look at the Federation of Kenyan Employers, again their statistics were showing that 67% of the youth have no jobs. In fact, or even the jobs that you're talking about, the people who have those jobs, we are talking about low quality jobs. You find a guy with a degree is now a security guard. You know, so even the jobs that you talk about, they are not jobs that are worthy of talking about. The country is completely moving in the wrong direction. People are growing poor. People are hungry. There's chaos in the country. And all you see every other time is these politicians with large, with words of cash in Harambis. It's like millions have become petty cash.
Yep.
You have a small group of people who have so much money, who are in abundance. These are politicians. They have no industries or employment company that they've created where you can see that they're adding value to the economy. Yet, they are arrogant, they have a lot of money, and people are angry, people are poor. I mean, how do you live with that? I always ask myself, as a leader, how do you sleep when you see all that? When you go to bed, what do you think about when you wake up?